We are going to explore each and every detail of this scope. First we'll go for this toolbar, all the details in this toolbar, complete details, and then we'll go for this menu bar, file, tools, view, simulation, and help. So without wasting time, let's get started. So this is the blank canvas and we are going to prepare a simple circuit. To add different blocks to this canvas, you can go to this library and you can take any of the sources. For example, we are going to take the sine wave, add to the block, and here we have the sine wave. There is another way through which you can add another sine block to this canvas. Double click it and write sine wave. So here we have another sine wave block, right? Now I want to add these two sine waves together. So I'll double click it and write add. I'll have another block. I want to add these two, so I'll make it plus plus. So there we go. Now it's time for the hero of the video, scope. So let's add scope. Right now we want only one axis, and there we go, our circuit is ready. It looks so tiny. So if you want to make it a little larger, I'll give you one shortcut. Just press spacebar and it will automatically adjust it to fit to screen view. Now let us adjust the parameters. Amplitude 1, frequency 1 radian, that's fine. Here amplitude make it 2, frequency also 2, and run the simulation. There we go. Double click it. This is how the display of scope looks like. Now we are going to explore each and every tools in this scope. Now we will rearrange this scope and observe each and every details. So here our view is ready. This section is the display of scope and this section is our simulation model. First we'll start with the configuration properties. Over here you can see a tiny gearbox. Click it and you will have the configuration properties of scope. There are main 4 tabs: main, time, display, logging. We'll start with the main. In main, the first thing you'll find is open add simulation start. When you click it and press apply, this simulation display will automatically turn on once you start the simulation. What we'll do, we'll close it too, and we'll run it again. And you can see the window popped up automatically. If you unclick it, close it and run it again, the window did not pop up automatically. So you can understand the difference. The next is display the full path. If you click it, it will display the full path. Full path means we are running simulation for the 10 seconds. So it will show the full path of 10 seconds. The next is numbers of input ports. Here we are having only one port. If you want to observe the multiple signals in one scope, then you should increase the numbers of ports. Here we have one signal which is addition and the two signals which are our raw signal. So total we have 3 signals. So let us add 2 more numbers of input ports and make it 3. Okay. So right now we are having total 3 inputs, right? So what we'll do, by dragging you can increase the size of the scope. You can connect this signal to the scope by left clicking over here and dragging it up to the signal. Another way is, if you want to take a branch from here, then right click at this point, drag a branch, leave the right click, left click, drag it to the point. So this is another way through which you can take a branch out from any signal. And then finally we will have the final signal. We will just rearrange these things. Now we'll run it again and we'll observe all these 3 signals in scope display. So there we go. You can see all these 3 signals are displayed in the scope. Over here, the first question comes into your mind is, how should I identify that which of the signal is which in this output. From here you can add legends. Click on the show legends button and you will have a legend over here. So yellow is the sine wave, blue is sine wave 1, and the red one is add. So here this one is the sine wave, this one is the sine wave 1, and this is the output of add. So by observing these legends you will be able to identify the output. Now we'll jump back to our configuration property. So we have seen how to add numbers of input port. Now we'll go for the layout. When you click this layout button, a small window is popped up over here. Here, each of this block changes its color when you hover the mouse. This shows the matrix layout or arrangement of all these three graphs. This means a matrix of 3 cross 2 is placed in this figure, and you can place up to 6 figures in one graph. Just click over here and say OK. So you can observe that 3 rows and 2 columns, so total 6 figures you can occupy in this place. Let's click it again. Over here, when it's blue, it means this place is assigned to any particular graph. But when you shift over here, the gray color means there are no graphs to put in that place. So now I'll modify my layout. I'll just make it 3 cross 1 and apply OK. So this is how my 3 cross 1 layout looks like. Again we'll go back to configuration properties. The next is sample time, input processing. There are two options: column as channel, frame based, and element as channel, sample based. The next is maximize axis. What will happen when you change this parameter? It is off right now, so you can observe there is a gap between two graphs. When you turn it on, it will maximize the axis and there will not be any space between the two graphs. If you off it, it will give you some space between the graph. The next is axis scaling. Right now it is in manual mode. You can make it auto or after an update. If you make it auto, it will automatically adjust the axis properties. When you make it manual, you can configure the axis scaling properties. To configure it, you need to press over here configure, and this will expand. From here you can configure the y-axis, and from here you can configure the x-axis. Let us configure it and observe how it changes. Right now the y-axis property is set as 80% of the area will be occupied by the signal. If I make it 25% and apply, once you run it again, you will be able to see the difference. The magnitude of signal remains the same, but automatically the scaling is adjusted to so high that our signal will only occupy 25% of space into a graph. If you make it little larger, if you make it 50, run it again, then the scale will be automatically adjusted in such a way that the signal will occupy the 50% of space into the graph. The same way you can auto scale x-axis also. It is 100% right now, and that is why we are getting 100% signal. If we make it 50% and apply, and then let's see what happens the next. The signal will only occupy 50% of the space horizontally. So again we'll make it 100%. Run it again. So this is how auto scaling of the axis x and y functions. The next tab is time tab. So we are going to explore it now. We'll make it 80, and now we'll explore the time tab. The first thing is time span. Here it shows auto. That means the time scale will be automatically adjusted to the full simulation time. If you want to change it, you can make it user defined from here. You can define your timestamp. For example, we are applying as 5, and once you apply, you can see it will show only from 0 to 5 seconds. from 0 to 5, 5 to 10. So in that band it will show the time span. If you have set any time span less than the full simulation time, then in time span overrun action there are two options, wrap or scroll. If you have set scroll, then it will scroll while the simulation is being running, or in wrap it will directly snap from 0 to 5 to 5 to 10. The next is unit. You can set it to metric or seconds. Then the time display offset. I'll show you this thing, but first I will go for this time axis labels. Right now the option is bottom display only. So you can see that the time scale is only visible in the bottom graph. You can change it from here to all graph, right? So now once you apply, all the axes will be having a separate time scale on its graph. Now here you can set show time axis label. So once you click here and apply, it will show time on x-axis. So now I'll explain this thing, time display offset. It starts from 0. So if you want to start this graph other than any 0 value, then you can set it from here. Let me make it 2. Apply. So now you can see the graph starts at 2 and will go up to 7. Right? So this is the display offset. The time will start from the mentioned offset value. So now we'll make it 0 and we'll make it auto. Now the third tab is display tab. In display tab you can see the first thing is active display. Over here you can see a yellow border over this first graph because we have selected the first active display. So if you select second active display, it will select display number 2, and likewise you can select any of the display from all these graphs. The next is title. So from this section you can set the title. We have selected active display 3. So we'll give title it as addition. Apply. So it shows the addition. If you select display number 2, so this is how we can give title to each of the graph. So from here you can make these legends visible or invisible. You unclick and apply, the legend will disappear. So from here you can make these legends appear or disappear. You just unclick it, apply, and it will disappear. So if you want to see it again, just click it and apply. So you can see the legends are available now. From here you can turn on this grid. Click, apply, the grid disappears. Click it back, apply, the grid comes back. So from here you can have the grid control. From here you can set the y minimum limit and y maximum limit. Right now it's -2 and 2. You can see it's -2 and 2. So whatever limits you want to give, you can set it from here. And then finally the y label. From here you can set the label to y-axis. So this is how you can set the amplitude to all these graphs. The next tab is login. In this tab, the first point is limit data point to last 5000 points. Right now I have unclicked it, but generally this point creates many issues in simulation. Many times you have found that when you run the simulation, you are not able to see the full graph. The reason is you have marked this limit data point to active. Let me do it and show it to you. Click it, apply, and run. So when the limit of this 5000 data point is enabled, you will face this type of issues. The graph will be shown of only last 5000 points. Let me zoom it out from here. Okay, I cannot zoom it out because in this main screen we have fixed the scale, right? So we will unclick it, right? Again come back here, run it again, and now you will be able to see. If you have set this limit to only 5000 points, right, it will show this type of things. Now what we'll do, we will disable this limit. We'll apply, make it done, and then run it again. So once you have removed that limit, run it again, auto scale it, and you can see, you will be able to see full graph. But whenever that limit of last 5000 points is enabled, you will not be able to observe the full graph. So that is why this point is very important. Now the next point is decimation and log data to workspace. These points I am not going to cover in this video. Why? Because this itself requires a 10 minutes explanation. And if I do it in this video, the length of this video will become so large. So I'll make a separate video on these 2 points. But if I tell these things in brief, then when you enable this log data to workspace, you will be able to store all this graph as a separate variable in workspace. How, what, when, why, all those questions we are going to tackle in our upcoming videos. So right now we are not going to discuss it in this video. So now we have seen all these 4 tabs of configuration properties. So before moving ahead, there is a quick short question for you, and the question is this: which of the tab is useful to set Y label out of all these 4 tabs? Write the answer in comments below. I am asking this question to have just a self check that have you really learned anything from this video or not. So check it by yourself and write the answer in comments below. Now we'll jump to the next thing. Close it. Beside this gearbox there is small arrow. When you click it, a small menu will pop up. So the bottom thing shows the show legend. When you click it, it will disappear all the legends, and if you want to see it again, just click it again. So from here you can directly have the control of legends. The next thing is layout. If you want to change layout quickly, you do not need to go to the configuration parameter. From this section also you can set the required layout. The next is style. This is very important thing, because using this style tab you can style this graph the way you want. The first is figure color. So from here you can change the figure color. Let's make it white. The next is axis color. So let us make it white too. So from here you can change the axis color. Now once you have changed the axis color, from here we will change the linings and text color to black. The next is active display. So from here you can individually control each of the graph. Here it shows active display 3, so we are going to change this third graph. The name of the signal is add. So from here you can change the line, width and color. So first we'll change the color, we'll make it blue, apply. From here you can change the thickness, let's make it 2. The thickness is changed. From here you can change the different styles of line. Let's make it dash line. So this is how you can change the properties of the line. From here you can select the next display. So this is how you can set the appearance of the graph. So now we are done with this configuration properties. All of these tools are just a shortcut from this menu bar. So now we are going to explore this menu bar instead of going for each of these tools. First we'll go for the files. In files, the first thing is open at start of simulation. We have seen this earlier in configuration properties. When we click it, the scope will automatically pop up when we run the simulation. From here we can set the numbers of input 1, 2, 3 or more. This is copy to clipboard. When you click it, this entire signal will be copied on your clipboard and you can directly paste this graph into your Word file. Let me show it to you. This is my Word file. When right click and do it paste, it will paste the entire graph. So this copy to clipboard is really very useful. The next in files is print, print preview and print to figure. So print and print preview is useful for directly printing to the printer, but print to figure is really very important. When you click it, this graph, the graph in the scope will be popped up in another window, and that window is figure 1. So now this graph will be open as a figure. And once this is open as a figure, you can configure various properties of this graph. Like in edit, you can see you can adjust the figure properties. You can give the figure name, signals. So here the name is signals available. From here you can adjust more properties. All these properties are available over here. We'll close it. Properties of individual graph which you can regulate from here. You click on any of the graph and separate property of that graph will be popped up. X-axis, Y-axis, Z-axis, font, and all the different properties you can set it from here. For each of the graph you can control the properties of that graph. You can control the color, the dashed line, the title, font style, everything you can control it from here. There are other different tools available in this figure editing block, but we are not going to explore all of these things right now, because right now our focus is to understand scope, not to understand how to edit the figures. We will make a separate video on how to make a paper ready or a report ready figures from the scope, but that we'll see little later. So right now we'll focus only on scope. So we'll close it and again go back to the files, close and close all the scope windows. So it is self-explanatory. The next is tools. From here you can zoom in, zoom x-axis, zoom y-axis, and zoom out. From here you can pan the graph, pan, and you can move this graph the way you want. Basically all these properties is available over here, panning and zooming. Once you click it, starts clicking it, it will keep on zooming at that point. If you want to zoom out, click over here, you will be able to zoom out the axis. If you want to rearrange all this axis, from here you can adjust all the axis. So from here you can do horizontal as well as vertical zoom. Click zoom X, click and drag up to the point where you want to zoom in. So this will zoom in the graph like this. The area you want to zoom, just drag up to that area and it will zoom that area. Again, auto scale. If you want to zoom y-axis, select appropriate y-axis and drag up to the area where you want to zoom and it will zoom the y-axis. Again, auto scale and zoom out. From here you can zoom horizontally, you can zoom vertically, and you can set auto scale. So ultimately shortcut of all these things is available over here. Now the next thing in zoom is axis scaling. You can save the axis limits, restore the axis limit, automatically scale the axis limit. The shortcut of these things is available over here. Scale axis limits, scale x and y limits, all these sections we have seen in configuration properties. So we are not going to repeat all these things again. The next thing is triggers and measurements. So first we'll explore the measurement and then we'll go for the trigger. So in measurement, the first is trace selection. The trace selection is basically to select any particular graph. So from here you can select any of this graph and then you will do different measurements. The next is cursor measurement. We'll select it and you will be able to see two cursors on each of the graph. So from here we'll select any of the graph. Let's select this middle one, the red graph. Now when you move this cursor, you can observe the change in the value, right? So it will indicate the value of x and y for this particular point. If you want to observe the value for any other graph, so from this trace selection you can select that particular graph and it will show x and y's magnitude for that particular point. So here it will show the time at this point. This is point number 2 and this one is point number 1. So this one shows the readings for point number 1 and this 2 shows the readings of point number 2. So right now we are at 7, so it shows 7.006 and the magnitude is 1.984. This delta t shows the horizontal distance between the point number 1 and point number 2, and delta y shows the vertical distance between these 2 points. Here there is another small section available for settings. So from here you can set from waveform cursor to screen cursor. When you adjust it to screen cursor, you can move this cursor anywhere into this screen, and the reading according to that point will be visible at this measurement section. If you want to move this point only on the graph, then you need to select the waveform cursor. Then after, with the movement of this cursor, the point will shift only on the graph, and when you select the screen cursor, then it will move anywhere into the screen. So we'll set it to waveform cursor. From here you can lock the cursor spacing. If you move one, both this line will be moving, right? Because we have locked the spacing between point number 1 and point number 2, or we can call it as cursor 1 and cursor 2. Snap to data. If we want to snap to any particular data, it will directly jump to the next taken data. So we'll unclick these two things, close it. So these are the measurements which you can take from the cursor measurement. The next is signal statistics. So from this section you can have all the important statistics of the selected signal: maximum value, minimum value, peak to peak value, mean, median and RMS value for this selected signal. So all the important quantities of selected signal can be observed from this signal statistics. The next is bilevel measurement. So in this bilevel measurements you can have multiple datas. Let me close these two things so we can have a better view. Over here there is parameters of overshoot, undershoot. All these things are very much useful when you are dealing with the error signals, right? These are for the cycles. It shows the frequency of our signal, pulse, width, duty cycle. All these things can be seen from these sections. Now we'll close it and go for the final peak finder. In this peak finder, from here you need to select the waveform. We have selected sine wave 1. So here it shows there are 3 peaks available. Now when you click peak number 1, it will show the x and y of that peak number 1, and likewise it will show all the subsequent peaks. So this is what the peak finder is. We'll close it. Now we'll go to tools and check out this triggers. From this trigger, the first is mode. You can adjust auto, normal, once or off. Let's make it once. From here you need to select the source. We have selected the sine wave 1. You need to select the type, age, pulse, transition. We have kept it to age, rising edge, falling edge, or either any of the age, whatever you want to select. Let's suppose we are taking as falling edge. This tab is for auto level. When you click it, it will automatically level it. If you unclick it, then by clicking here you can adjust the level, right? So let's suppose we are keeping it up to this level, and let's run it again. So you can see this is how it is triggering the signal at the falling edge. Now we'll explore the next things. We'll close it, run it again. So our original graph is back again. The next is view tab. In view tab, the first is layout. When you click it, it will again show us the layout, and this thing we have already seen. The next thing is configuration properties. This tab we have already seen. Then the next is style, legend. So all of these things we have seen earlier. The next is bring all windows forward. So it will bring all the windows of the scope in forward direction. The next is toolbar. By clicking over here you can disappear this toolbar. See, this toolbar is disappeared and it appears again. From here you can remove the status bar which is below over here. From here you can highlight the Simulink block. Once you click it, it will highlight this scope block. So this view section is over. The next is simulation. From here you can run the simulation. From here step forward and stepping options and Simulink snapshot. So from here you can take a snapshot of Simulink. You can run it from here, step forward, backward, and stepping options you can adjust it from here. This is stepping option. If you enable stepping back, it will step back the simulations, right? Instead of this 250 steps, let's make it 100 steps. Apply and OK. Then step it forward. Now we'll step it forward. When you step it forward, at each click it will forwarding by few steps. Now let me change the stepping option. Instead of this 100 points, let's make it 500. Okay, let's run it again, and now we'll do step forward. So when I click, at each click all this graph will step forward 500 points, right? See, now so this is how you can achieve step forwarding of the simulation. So this simulation tab is also over. The final tab is help tab. Over here you can find the help of the scope, Simulink help, keyboard, command, shortcuts. Click over here. There are few shortcuts provided here and different Simulink examples, and about Simulink, the details of the Simulink you can explore it from about Simulink. So that's it. We have covered the entire scope in this video. In next video, we are going to cover log data to workspace, and then we'll play with that logged data. We'll plot the graph and do so many things in that MATLAB. And then after, we are going to explore how we can edit the figures and make it ready for the paper publication or for any other report publications. I have prepared varieties of videos on MATLAB tutorials. If you want to explore, if you want to learn MATLAB, then you can explore my playlist. So until we meet again in our next video, till the time, bye bye.